If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. Thomas Jefferson nailed it. But here's the deal. Mass, widespread ignorance about the Constitution is no accident. It's by design. Because an educated people are harder to dominate and control. They ask inconvenient questions. They know the difference between a servant and a master. And when government violates the rules given to it, an educated, free people, well, they slap it right back into place and fast. So here's our choice. A real land of the free, or a population on its knees continuing to beg for permission from the largest government in history. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects
Good evening, everyone. Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Everything's working just great tonight.
Yeah, it seems that clip kind of just dropped there for a second.
Oh, it didn't play?
It was playing for a moment. 10th Amendment Center.
Yeah, it was a real short one. It was a short. He had started over,
Yep.
And that's when I quit sharing it. Hey, Carolina, Echo. Who else we got? Eric.
We got everyone from Anthony to Cheryl to
Anthony.
we got a lot of the regulars in the chat.
Mary. Yep. It's good to see all of y'all tonight.
I'm going to also spam you out elsewhere for a second. So if I drop, I'll be right back. Just hopefully it doesn't bump me. We'll see.
Okay. And so while you're doing that, I have these questions, and the place where I got these questions said that there's 20 questions that Trump is requiring to prove citizenship.
Okay. So should we go through those questions and see how Watt, yourself, myself, and others do? Or how should we do the 20 questions?
It's up to y'all. I wrote down all the answers. I wrote out all the questions and wrote down all the answers, and that took some time. But it's interesting to me because, okay, number one, I didn't learn any of this in school. I never even heard civics class. I don't know that it was offered. The high school I went to was very small, and I don't know.
They replaced civics with social studies. By the way, I'm just curious. You don't hear the dog barking in the background, do you?
Not loud enough to worry about. It's tiny.
Okay,
and
good.
I will probably have some background noises also because I brought my dog out here and I have my granddaughters still. So, but they've both been told to be quiet, so we'll see what happens.
They're fine. I figure this dog's I can walk him later if need be. And then the flip side is that whenever I've turned on podcasts or whatever today, I guess he must think there's someone else's voices, so he starts barking. Made it really interesting to call into the Alex Jones show earlier today. So I dropped I was the first caller and I dropped some knowledge in there. So those who watch that rebroadcast, if you hear Sean in California, yeah, that's me. That guilty as charged.
And what was that on? I'm sorry.
Alex Jones show. I was his first caller when he went to calls because he's basically seeing the seeds for civil war being planted, and he's like, "Well, what should we do?" And Bonnie, you've known my message, and a lot of your
Yes.
callers in their different ways are kind of doing our message. Whether they're getting together with people and packing, uh, fruit and freeze drying it to prep for the winter, or they're
Yes.
teaching their kids how to fish, with proper bait, or someone's going down and using that membership at the range to sight their rifle, and we're all peacefully and lawfully preparing ourselves. And part of that, what we're focusing on with your channel tonight, is our constitutional knowledge. Because if civilization collapses, well, how will we rule ourselves? Civilization doesn't collapse, what should we bring our civilization back towards? And that answer is that Constitution and its different articles and amendments. So you have 20 questions. I'm kind of curious as to what those questions might be. So
Okay. It's all over. Okay, got it. Okay. I will start with these. First question is, what does the judicial branch do? Which, that one's a pretty easy one. It's um,
I keep it pretty simple. I just blurt it out like this. And it's not a completely accurate statement, but it handles the controversies between the states. If the state can't solve an issue between each other, they got to go to the judicial branch to resolve it.
see, and that's one thing I'm wondering with all these questions. Is this a different point of view than what we have been studying and seeing? Because some of the answers, and you'll hear them, the answer I wrote down reviews laws and resolves disputes, which is correct, but that's all it says. Doesn't say between the states and the government. So you'll hear it's kind of leaning more towards, I mean, but then it gets down to the people later, but I don't know. We'll just see what all of y'all.
Well, there's a thought that if we look at the people, Bonnie, as collecting themselves together as a state, and that state's governance then follows a direction, and that puts them in conflict with another state, then in a haphazard way, you could say yes, they solve, or they remedy controversies between the people, but it's in the form of the states. But those states are corporations, so unless you believe corporations are people, it's not a completely honest argument or trail to get to that path. I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but you can see what I mean, right?
Yes, and so um, and that's what I always thought, that the judicial branch resolved issues between the government and then the states. Like if it's a whole state um, issue, but well, we'll just keep going on.
Sure.
As far as the people go, we're supposed to be self-governing, and that's where the grand jury comes in, correct? The grand
The assembly, and the general assembly, and then the next step is, do you need,
yes.
which part of the Swiss Army knife do you need? Do you need the militia, the grand jury? Do you need people for correspondence? Do you need a committee of safety? Does the sheriff need posse? You have different
Hey,
tools that are formed out of that assembly. So the grand jury being the most vital one, I would say, based on reading I've done. And don't get it incorrect. Correspondence is important because you must petition for redress of grievance. So you better know how to send those documents to the right people, the checks and balances, as I referenced to Mr. Jones on his radio show, podcast, whatever, earlier today. That's what people have been missing is how do we access this person? Well, you need to know who that check and balance is. You need to have enough people together giving them that direction so you have standing. And that's part of the point of assembling is you have that body that's not ad hoc, but has been in existence for a while, showing that they can actually self-govern and run those functions and issue those directions. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's the thing there is if we're saying, oh, the people of the state of or whatever, that doesn't necessarily entail that it's the people talking. It could be special interest with a lawyer drafting it up and claiming to represent the people. And you will have that from time to time. Attorneys will take on cases with maybe 5 or 10 people in a whole state of millions trying to pretend that their little suit they're pushing represents what everybody wants, such as protect the endangered triple striped turtle with butterfly, markings or whatever. And oh my gosh, next thing you know, you can't have anyone go dune buggying through that piece of desert because of this rare endangered animal that never was endangered before, never lived there before, but somehow it's there. Kind of like that smelt in the San Francisco Bay.
You're missing it.
The little fish that Gavin, yeah, like little fishy that Gavin flushes all that water out for. So,
and another reference to an assembly would be the governing body.
no, not the de facto governing body, actually the body in the de jure format of We the People. The de facto governing body isn't even governing. It's taking corporate pays and listening to lobbyists and just running its business with the attempt to just grow business for the sake of growing business versus managing business to actually be successful. So that's
Right.
something to contemplate. I have people who I'll show them that they have more than one vote, and they're thinking that, okay, well, they got to get involved with the midterms and with, participating in grand jury. It's like, correct, but you have to understand there's 2 governments that are in existence, and one of them is vacant and waiting to be refilled by people. So you're clearly bad actors. take that as a double entendre.
Okay. So here's the second question. What is one power that the federal government has?
What is one power?
Yes.
Repeat that. What is one power the federal government?
Yes. What is one power that the federal government has? And their answer is print money, make treaties, and declare war.
I was going to go with declare war, but the printing money. Yeah. Well, this current federal government has added that to the Federal Reserve, which is not federal. And then making treaties. Well, most of the treaties they made weren't properly ratified or done, so they've abdicated those. Like all those responsibilities have been abdicated. Continuing resolutions and different police actions and things have gotten around Congress actually standing up and declaring war. And how do I want to phrase it? Doing their job, because in theory they can't really do their job anyway, unless they interface with We the People. And they wouldn't want to do that now, would they?
Right. Okay. And then, oh my goodness. Okay, I started in the wrong place. That was 7 and 8. Okay, we will go to question 1. Sorry about that, y'all. I'll skip 7 and 8 when we get there. So, the okay. what is the purpose of the Federalist Papers? So I had to dig in to see what the Federalist Papers were, because I was like, wait a minute. So do you want me to go over what that is?
Well,
Because
you could enlighten your followers, but for me, I looked at it as a really well-built series of debates, if you will, in the kind of in a public forum where the founders using pen names were able to educate the public, but also debate each other on which ways a federal government should or should not function, uh, and help
yes,
lay out arguments for it and warnings if the different levers ever became abusive, how would you put them in check and so on. So sorry, it's not a concise answer, but that's how I like to look at it. I haven't read all of them, but I've read a handful of them, and the the thinking back then is as relevant today as it was in the late 1700s. I yield.
and then so there's 85 essays. It's a collection of 85 essays. Hey Dee, good to see you. In case y'all didn't know what the Federalist Papers were, and they were published in 1787 and 1788. Okay, now question number 2. Who is known as the father of the U.S. Constitution? I think we all know it's James Madison. That's surely we know that after all the quizzes and everything that we've been doing. Question number 3. What is one important thing that Alexander Hamilton did?
Oh boy. He, get shot by Aaron Burr would be my my statement. I'm not a Hamilton fan.
So the answer
Yeah.
I have, he was the first Secretary of the Treasury and helped write the Federalist Papers. Right.
Yeah, I could have gone with that, and I didn't want to see if I start saying, "Oh, yeah, he was part involved in the Federalist Papers." It kind of like I'm glazing him and buffing up his aura when he was. To be honest, a lot of his arguments, when you understand his ties to banking and everything, were really self-serving. So it put again, you got to know these people, these founders, to like get a context of why they're writing what they write. And a lot of these guys were in it because they were either bar members or they were bankers or they had businesses that they realized doing business with the British, they weren't going to succeed or they're going to go out of business. And that the colonies at that time, for example, when the Stamp Act came out in 1760s, I want to say 1763 or so, the Stamp Act basically said you couldn't use any of the currency in the colonies, couldn't use their paper money or any of it. You basically had to use I believe it was the silver sterling, the units from Britain. So it's like, okay, you got to wait until Britain brings its currency over before you can even go shopping or before you can even pay your workers, so on and so forth. So there was a lot of funny business that businessmen and bankers and regular people alike saw, and it made them dissatisfied with the crown.
Right.
But Hamilton at the same time, you know, I won't say he was doing everything through the back door, but we all know now in hindsight he was an agent for the Rothschilds and other characters. So I kind of see him as a double dealer. That's why I don't like talking much on him. But let me throw this out there. He was involved with the Naval Revenue or the Coastal Revenue and Cutter Service, and that has a little connection to the profile picture I use. So they're him and Oliver Walcott and some others. So if you know, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4. What is the 10th Amendment about? I know everybody here knows the answer to that. Oh, Al wants to see wigs again. So their answer was powers not given to the federal government but to the states, which narrows it down pretty good, I think.
Well, the 10th, a lot of people cite that on one hand, and then they'll cite Marbury versus Madison on the other hand, which,
Mhm.
true, the states don't have these powers, but by invoking Marbury versus Madison alongside it, because a lot of people do that, they're welcome to when talking about the states. But then you're kind of acknowledging you're giving the Supreme Court that power to decide if something's constitutional, which did not exist before that. It's only as a matter of tradition that we are led to believe the Supreme Court cites what is or what isn't constitutional. So you got to be careful that if you're talking, sometimes you may not distinguish. If you say, you don't acknowledge the power of the Supreme Court, so you turn around and cite Marbury versus Madison after you cite the 10th Amendment, if you fall in that habit of lumping them together, you'll be picked apart for it. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind. I yield.
I'm making that noise go away because it's fixing to keep on. Okay. Fifth question. What is the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution?
Essentially asserts the federal government has supremacy over the states, and any states. Think of it this way: all the states agreed to follow the Constitution, so they're basically admitting that in certain situations, the federal government will override them.
And that's
So,
what it says. Their answer is it says the U.S. Constitution and the federal laws are the highest laws of the land.
yep. Oh, hey, we got Watt Life dropping the 15th Amendment. Thank you, Watt.
Hey, Watt, good to see you. Okay, number 6. Why did the Americans fight the British in the Revolutionary War? And
Well,
their answer is like just
I want to
one
hear what their answer is.
because of high taxes and lack of self-government.
Oh, would that be the slogan? No taxation without representation.
Yeah.
But there's other reasons in it as well. Not just the taxation, but why the Stamp Act and the other taxes. Why were the colonists being taxed? They won the French Indian War, and yet Britain, to make up for war debts and so on, taxed them. That's like being punished for winning a war. When people think about it that way, you could see why you'd have a lot of dissident officers or colonists who are like, what the heck are we paying extra taxes for if we just won? The point of winning is you take the other guy's property or whatever, and he pays the tax.
So religion has nothing to do with it?
Oh, religion has to do with it too. King George insisting, divine right and, being ordained by God, because back then the parliament existed, but the parliament could still be manipulated to obey the king.
Yep.
It's a very, very interesting template. King George was in a spot. Yeah, there was expenses from that war. He needed to raise taxes, but there's other ways they could always have done it. I mean, people forget there are islands in the Caribbean that don't just belong to the Spanish or French, but also belong to the British. The British could have sold one of those islands off, or they could have, used the trading post. In fact, I think they did have a trading post. Trying to remember in the Dominican Republic, or maybe it was Haiti, but it was a port that was notorious for piracy. And I believe the British actually had control of that port. We'll have to look that up another day, but eventually got wiped out by a typhoon or something of that effect, because it was supposed to be such a place of evil that they thought God wiped it off the map. And I believe it was on the Dominican Republic side of the island.
Right.
Port Royal, I think that was the name.
That sounds familiar. Okay, we're skipping 7 and 8 because I already did them. Number 9 is give one example of the checks and balances of the U.S. Constitution. Their answer is the president can veto law and Congress can override the veto.
Yeah, that's one of the checks and balances. How about
they give such...
how about the Congress? The president vetoes Congress, and Congress can still put it through again. So there's a balance against the president as well.
Hey, Pepper 101.
If you follow that same process.
Yeah. But, okay, they did just say checks and balances. Okay, got it. Yep. Well, somebody's failing on their job right now.
Well, it's the thing where they don't want the president to have the absolute power, but it takes things, once you get them back into Congress, to go through so far that by that time the Congress may be like, you know what, we don't have the president's support. It was a pain in the butt to get all these votes the first time, so we may as well just let the bill die on the table, die on the floor. And basically, like in standard congressional procedure, back when Thomas Jefferson wrote the rules for the Senate, and that you would have a period of about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, which you would always bring the bill to the floor, and you could, if you didn't have the votes, or if it wasn't going to pass that week, you could table that motion for the bill. And then after the 3 weeks have passed, on 4th week, you have to read it in the record and make an up or down vote. Are we going to vote on this, or are we going to not bring it anymore? And then if it was a down vote, then yeah, that matter is considered finished. But they vote up. That's when the Congress votes on it, and then they send it to the Senate. The Senate sends it back to Congress. So that little ping pong game right there between the House of Representatives and the Senate is a check on all of them by themselves. And if they approve, yeah, you pass it to a president. If he doesn't approve with a veto, it goes right back to them. And they have to go through that process all over again.
Right.
This is where Schoolhouse Rocks, I'm Just a Bill on Capitol Hill is a really good cartoon to play.
Yes. Okay, number 10 is name the 3 branches of the federal government and why we have it. And of course, executive, legislative, and judicial. And the reason that they say why we have it is to have it so one branch doesn't become all too powerful. I'm having trouble reading my writing.
Well, who needs the branches when you have the uniparty running all 3 of the branches? But yeah, traditionally, I made an acronym that helped me memorize it. JEL, JEL, judicial, executive, legislative. Not in the same order, but it works really good if you could create an anagram or a term out of these things.
True.
So ironic though that it's JEL, and I was like, well, if it was JAIL, that'd be funnier. But name something they're not going to see. What?
And a lot of times that does make it easier to learn if you think of something to like you just said, or a song. There's numerous ways to retain the message. Okay, number 11. What are the major political ideologies of today? And it's just
Oof.
liberal or conservative, Democrat or Republican, is what they said.
No, what a dialectic. They're not even presenting libertarianism or socialism or radical environmentalism or all the other isms.
Right.
That's amazing.
And so, from what I understand, these are the questions that they give to people. And that's another thing I find interesting is how much they have to know when they are becoming an American citizen. It is study, study, study. And so maybe that's why they're making the answers so simple. And I don't know. But we can't let our foreign citizens know more about the Constitution than we do.
Well, why do you think they're running circles around most Americans? Either the Americans are ignorant or they're quote unquote too busy and not willing. And so the people who know the Constitution are going to run circles around you using it. Exactly, Al Bundy. You have to know how to play 3D chess before you play 4D chess.
Yes. And that's why I played that at the beginning. Ignorance equals tyranny. Tyranny is because that's why we're doing this. So that we do know what's up. We know the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. We have to be familiar with it enough to not even sound ignorant when asked a question. We may be asked these questions one day. They may decide, are you sure you're an American citizen? And start asking us these questions. Hey, chessboard.
Or if there's a different way of putting it, they made that Civil War movie last year, and you had a character ask, "What kind of American are you?" And that's a loaded question if you know what the character means and all of that, So American people have got. I was saying this earlier today. We got to not just learn our material. We got to start applying it, using it, and putting in the sweat and doing it.
I haven't seen that movie yet.
I'm not going to buy anything from Netflix or Amazon, so I'm in the same boat. But I saw the commercials because of coverage on conservative media outlets. It was like, yeah, kind of freaky anyway.
Okay.
But they literally made a movie where you had Western Alliance, which was the Pacific Coast states, and then Gavin Newsom comes out talking about his Western Alliance. So they're literally trying to, put the seeds out there for civil war in the minds of the weaker Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And you disrupt those seeds with the light of truth and the flame of liberty. That's what this Constitution inspires once you read it. Go ahead.
And another thing is they have to get 12 out of the 20 questions correct.
Now you see that, I would say no. They got to get 19 out of the 20, or if they get add more questions, the higher the score, the faster your visa or your citizenship gets permitted. Because I don't mind having more citizens if they assimilate. You would figure someone who answers more questions correctly with an A score, not a C or a D score, but with an A score, yeah, that guy probably wants to be a citizen, or at least he wants to do business here. The other people who don't care to get so many answers right, yeah, they can go home. We don't need them.
Ow. Okay, number 12 is, what does the Bill of Rights do? And their answer is, it protects the basic rights of the people.
Okay, that's not quite correct. What it does is it prohibits the government from trampling on the rights of the people.
Right.
I mean, to say that it protects the rights of the people, that means, oh, the government could threaten it. No, the government was never meant to be in a position to threaten it. The government was meant to be bound in a box by that Bill of Rights. Those are the bars on the cage. The Constitution is the box. The Bill of Rights, the bars that fill in the gaps.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, that it's almost like they're making it sound like the power is the government in some of these.
Correct.
And
And it shouldn't be.
no. Number 13 is, what is the purpose of the Pledge of Allegiance? And their answer is, gives loyalty to the United States and to the U.S. flag.
Well, and here's the bit of irony is that technically, because that flag is for the corporation and the military interest, you're pledging loyalty to them. As Four Corners report can educate you guys on, and others, that flag, if it's over your house and there's martial law, you're basically inviting the military to camp out on your patio.
Mhm.
So you might want to look at having other flags in your display, like the one I might have as my profile picture. Nothing against the military, but you're not getting free chips and free sodas out. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and it's never America. Never say America. Okay, number 14. What was the Louisiana Purchase? And their answer was, the U.S. bought land from France in 1803 and doubled the size of the United States. Yep.
Can you repeat that, Bonnie? It sounds like you cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. The answer or the question?
The question, because it roboted and then it went quiet for a moment.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's probably the phones.
What was the Louisiana Purchase? And then their answer was, the United States bought land from France in 1803 and doubled the size of the United States.
Oh, yes, the Treaty of Cession that Jefferson did not have authorization to do, but went ahead and did anyway. Which, by the way, by making a purchase like that, would that not have put the U.S. in debt, meaning that the original Treaty of Paris from the Revolutionary War was still outstanding? Just a thought, folks. Al's asking why we're being sabotaged by the geriocracy, because that geriocracy doesn't want to lose their powers and their benefits. That's really what it boils down to.
Yep. Benefits. There's been a lot of that going on then. Okay. Let's see, we're on number 15. What movement tried to end racial discrimination? The Civil Rights Movement. Which we all knew.
I heard the question, so what amendment, something, something discrimination?
No, what movement tried to end racial discrimination? And it was the Civil Rights Movement.
The abolition. It's not the abolitionist movement. Oh, no, wait. That made us all slaves. I'm sorry. We all became equal then.
Hey, Sharon, good to see you. Teams. I love their comments. Okay, number 16. Name 2 ways Americans can participate in democracy. Mm. Y'all know how that one felt when I read it. So their answer was vote, volunteer, run for office, join a civic group.
Huh.
So
I wonder what that would be.
a civic group would be an assembly, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, yes, it would. Hopefully, a general drill assembly. Other civic groups might not be out of the de facto, and they might also have other agendas already attached to them.
Yeah. Okay. 17. What is one promise you make when you become a U.S. citizen? And their answer is to obey the laws of the United States and the U.S. Constitution, United States Constitution.
Now, funny part is because they are pledging and swearing, they actually become constitutors and parties to that national debt and parties to those stipulations in that constitution. So you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of see why they want to spread the wealth or the debt by having more people come in and constantly swear that they'll take up that debt. So that's something folks should contemplate. Also, Echoes pointing out they increased the number of questions, and then the officer will ask 20 questions instead of the previous 10 questions, which is funny because it's literally a game of 20 questions. I'm amused by that.
Right? Okay, number 18. Why is it important to pay your taxes? That dreaded word that everybody keeps saying, stop paying taxes. So why is it important to pay your taxes?
You see how they're indoctrinating these people as they turn them into citizens? Just
Yes.
saying. Let me put it this way: what they make off of sales taxes and your local taxes and all that, they'd be fine. Ron Paul ran the math years ago. You get rid of the Federal Reserve and those taxes, and you wind up with a government smaller than it was before 9/11. Still functional, just not bloated and overpriced.
Mm-hmm. And
So I argue, why is it important to reduce your taxes? Because you don't want to give these thieves more opportunity or more fuel.
that's, I thought it had said income taxes, but I may have been looking forward into the 16th and 17th Amendment because I thought that maybe we could combine a few of them, but no, we can't. Their answer was taxes fund government services like our defense, schools, and roads.
They fund our schools and roads. Yeah, at the local level, not at the federal level. Federal level, I'm sorry, but some of these interstate highways look worse than they did when Obama was supposedly spending money on them, and everybody else. Oh, we're always going to do infrastructure, rebuild the roads. Oh, you mean the same roads that in Germany at the Autobahn can last for 80 years without being done, but you guys, you can't even keep them consistently fixed for more than a year or two.
Right. No
Now
matter. Yeah.
we got one of the Crown members over here in the chat saying we should have stayed with the Crown. Oh boy,
And
that would
paid
have been
less.
cute.
I don't know. Um, But it did say that some of it goes for our defense. To the military, I suppose.
Well, it wasn't supposed to. Originally, we were supposed to have our militias, and then our militias could form a state militia, and then the government would summon those militias when they were needed. But
Yeah.
the standing army is the surest way to guarantee any nation goes into debt. And so the banking interests decided to create a military industrial complex and to keep justifying us having to go to war, so we'd always have a standing army around.
Okay. And then number 19. What are the colors of the United States flag and what do they represent? Let's see if anybody in chat answers.
And I would hope everybody in the chat knows the colors on our flag because, regardless, yeah, there's some duplicity too when it comes to that stuff. See, white can also be a color for throwing up a white flag and surrendering. So if those stars are all white and they're in a field of blue representing the Union, wouldn't that mean those stars, those states have surrendered to the Union? Just a thought.
Yeah.
Yep. And if they're blue, if they're signifying, let's say they're like, water, and they're on that field of white, then wouldn't water flow over the top, which means the stars, the states are on top of the Union? Know your heraldry, know your flags, folks. There's a reason for this.
So they're saying red is for courage, white is for purity, blue is for justice.
I used to remember it as being for honor, but okay, justice it is. They've changed it up on it.
Yep. Okay, last question, number 20. Why is the Declaration of Independence important?
Oh gosh. Why is it important? Oh, there's a few reasons. I mean, let's just see here. Why is the Declaration of Independence important? One, it literally created a new nation out of 13 colonies. Two, it showed a lawful way to actually announce to the world that this nation was forming and severing ties with previous governments that were abusing the colonists. I can go on and on. The Declaration, it's probably one of the best documents in the history of Western society, if not the planet.
So their answer is it announced our independence from Great Britain and announced that all people are created equal.
Yes, that's a good answer. Here's another answer that they hide from you. It also shows the people what they must do before they ever sever ties with their governance. It literally, remember First Amendment petition for redress of grievances? Well, that's talked about in the Declaration of Independence that they did petition the king and he didn't hear their petitions. So now they have to declare independence. Could it be a roadmap? Huh. What an amazing idea.
Thank you, Echo, for putting all the clarifications into the testing.
And I like Al Bundy's comment here at 650. Declaration of Independence was the first document to declare human rights under God government. Amen. And Lord, is that so true? They replaced the king and the parliament and all them and put the people on top with God over them.
Yeah. Hey, Phil, good to see you.
And that Farmy 003.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, the Brits here in our chat are having a disagreement, it looks like, whether or not to fight for their island. The fact they're having that disagreement kind of means they're kind of past that point. So they're going to have to find out what works under their English common law and their particular system, because there are a lot of people in Britain who deny the Magna Carta, and that right there, that's how the British had their rights, is they usually invoke the Magna Carta, but there were lesser Magna Cartas created and challenges to it in the courts where you have to cite the correct version of the Magna Carta if you want anything done correctly in the courts now. So the British are just as screwed up in their courts as we are.
Flares too. I agree with that. And so the man that did this little clip that I saw these questions in is Brad Bernstein, and he is an immigration attorney. And that's that.
I hear that word attorney and it just like, oh gosh, it's
Yes. Hard.
ironically, if you're going to bring people into the country and put them under this government and turn them into human capital, you would need someone who turns property from one thing to another. So they become a property from one nation, they become our property for this nation.
I think,
actually kind of cynical, but true. Go ahead.
Excuse me. So the Louisiana Purchase, if I'm not mistaken, Texas was purchased, was California? I'm thinking that all that used to belong to Mexico was purchased. California.
The war with Mexico. Yeah, Bonnie, if I may, the war with Mexico happened. Halls of Montezuma ring a bell?
Yes.
That's where the Marines went to the capital of Mexico, battled Chapultepec, earned our blood stripe, and kicked some ass. Probably our bloodiest battle we ever had. But both Mexico and the United States recognized it wasn't going to be tenable to, keep fighting that war. So we said, you know what? Here's a few million for your inconvenience. Go away. And then that's basically how it ended. Is we had our war, when it wasn't a long war, and then we just paid them off to quit being a pest. And I don't want to make a dirty analogy, but like a lady with the hills in the air, they took the money. So when people from Mexico complained that their land was stolen, no, you guys took the money after getting your ass kicked in a war. So it's a twofer. you lost the right to land by conflict, trial by combat, and you also lost the right to the land by purchase. You just accepted a low amount. That's on you. If you read the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, there's also other stipulations in there and stuff. But the problem we have with Mexico and the socialists in Mexico is they're still educating their kids to come up here to this day, that Mexico somehow still belongs to them, part of Califas and the Reconquista, and will be merged back with them because America's only renting the land. We're not actually owners on the land. And it's it's quite a interesting thing that's not in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, but somehow they think it is.
Annalisa, good to see you.
So that goes to show you too what school teachers telling you something says versus going and reading it yourself.
Yep. Texas was annexed, not purchased. That why we're still a republic and can leave the. I don't know. Maybe. I mean.
Yeah, hilarious. 288.20, making a point the debt is to support other countries. Yeah, there is some way to go with that. And God says to pay your taxes. That's a bit of a humor there. Yeah, California. Go ahead, Bonnie.
I was just saying hello to Meat Puppet. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, no, I was just looking at the chat. I didn't want to step on your toes. But yeah, and, and they marched, we beat them to it. And because they had a militia in California, the government looked at it and they said, you know what, you guys met the qualifications for government. And they fast tracked California to becoming a state because of the gold rush in 1849. So California has that unique history of that. They didn't have a militia in the formal sense of combat experience, but they did form one. They did have people, drafting a constitution for the California Bear Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a bit of a fun history out here in California when we look that stuff up. And then states like New Mexico or Denver, they took a little bit longer, but by 1865, even Colorado had itself a state constitution.
Well, there's Stu, I was going to ask you, so do you feel that paying for other countries' wars is helping them? Just curious.
Oh,
Because
hell, people mistake in the Bible tithing for taxes. They're separate. So folks need to make sure they know the difference between the two.
but doesn't the Bible mention that you have to pay your taxes?
Well, that's when people are corrupting the quote, from Christ regarding Julius Caesar on the coin, as well as corrupting parts of Romans. The taxes that are due, why were those taxes due? Rome conquered Israel at the time and was subjugating those people with heavy taxation. So was it even right or just taxation? No, they were fueling, the war machine of Rome that was going all the way up into Spain and into Germany and so on. We see similar problems with that today. Taxation
Yeah.
without consent of the government is not taxation. It's extortion. So don't get it twisted. That's where, that again, taxation without representation. The people don't consent to those taxes because their representatives just keep adding more and more taxes. Then it's not actually taxation. It is extortion, and it is also enslavement. The power
Yeah.
to tax is the power to destroy. Benjamin Franklin.
Yep.
Carolina makes a good point about the ne'er-do-wells. You had a lot of carpetbaggers and ne'er-do-wells who figured, hey, if we just play this role and convince people to give us money, we can go and pose as, a concerned citizen who is helping out the despondent and the displaced and the this and the that. And eventually everybody is helping everybody, but nobody's getting anywhere. It's like the Three Stooges bit where they pass the money around that they owe each other.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, they're all frustrated.
I don't see how it honors God to support wars.
Well,
I just
I'm
can't.
going to trip you out here, Bonnie. You probably have heard me give this speech before, so I'm gonna probably open some eyes, or maybe I'll get some people saying I'm being a little too radical here. But okay, we're supposed to love our God with all our heart, all our mind, all our soul, etc. Now I'm putting that as a preface. We know that they say that churches are non-taxable, right? Churches
Mm-hmm.
are non-taxable. Okay.
Yes.
So church is non-taxable. The root word for church is Kirk. So if we wanted to make a joke, Charlie Kirk was literally Charlie Church. That might explain
Mm-hmm.
his faith, right?
Right.
So Kirk is that root word. Body is what it means in the Germanic tongues. Kirk means body, hence body of Christ, Church of Christ. Now, a church cannot be taxed. So a body cannot be taxed. And if the body is where the Holy Spirit dwells because one has accepted Christ, because the Holy Spirit left the temple and tore the Holy of Holies when Christ was ransomed for all of us, and then went into the apostles and so on upon Pentecost. And if Christ is in all his followers, can you tax those bodies if the Holy Spirit dwells there? Or would taxing that be a profanity upon the body of Christ and upon the people and the church? Now you guys got an obligation to actually look at your taxes and see if they are just or not, because it's not just a matter of consenting to the warfare and the abuse. But if you say you hold the light of Christ within you, that you have the Holy Spirit dwelling in you, and your body is the temple of Christ, then it should not have to pay a tax. In straight translation, straight logic from that sequence of events. If I blew your mind, you don't have to tell me. But yeah, a person with a Bible and Constitution could walk into a courthouse and could win any case back in the day of John Quaid out here in Palmdale, Lancaster, California. I wish he was still with us, but little bits of knowledge like that. You could, if you honestly believe you aren't supposed to pay taxes, they would say, okay, we'll just put you in jail because you're crazy. You believe you don't have to pay taxes. And you'd be out like within a year. So yeah, if people want to pay the price, you don't have to pay the taxes, but you will be attacked on all ends. Like I said, pay as few taxes as possible. You know, eventually
Yeah.
we'll get it to zero. The government will run off of a sales tax for a bubble gum, a sales tax on cigarettes, a sales tax on gasoline. Heck, in California, 20% or more of our gasoline price is from taxes. That's
Mhm.
why we have $6 or $7 sometimes gasoline. The rest of the country's like at $4 or $5. Currently, we're at $4.89. I checked yesterday. Some of you guys out there, you're down around $2 a gallon, maybe $2.50. So that's the
Yes.
disparity. But taxes are big and makes a huge difference in people's quality of life.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read the 15th Amendment. I'm going to try. Okay. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. And that was so the black people could vote. Is that
Correct.
part
It
of that?
opened up. Well, it
Yeah.
opened it up, but there's a lot in the South they tried to do to get around that. So I threw you a link to Grok, where I had Grok pull up cases. If you scroll through, you'll see a lot of those cases against that amendment or for it are in the South. It's a fascinating little dive right there.
Love it. White. And so hilarious to your right. The Constitution is written based off of the Bible.
Multiple references, in fact.
Oh my goodness.
Something
I
for
think
Carolina in the chat as well. The eye of the needle and the camel. The camels actually had to kneel to get through the eye of the needle. So, what are the chances of a rich man kneeling to go through the eye of the needle, the gate that was in Jerusalem? So there's a double entendre when Jesus gives that lesson. It's a very beautiful lesson. And here's the thing: yes, we should want our money to help people, but you give your money from your own pocket willingly to a case, and you have a personal connection. You don't give it to an NGO and just do it mechanically. And there's no spirit, there's no outreach, there's no fellowship, there's no invested interest. You're just doing it as much as you would, flushing a toilet or flipping on a light switch. That's not anything based on faith. That's just doing something mechanically. It's devoid of soul and spirit. And believe it or not, that's how the Pharisees and Sadducees were trying to run their temple. It's why Christ recognized that there was no spirituality in it. It's why he flipped over the tables. Half of the people there, the Sadducees, they didn't even believe in a resurrection. They didn't believe in Ezekiel's vision of the dry bones coming back to flesh. So you had basically, well, just call them Jewish atheists, if anybody knows what I mean. they were running a money grift on the temple worshipers. Pharisees, at least, were a little bit more high-minded and actually believed the words of the Old Testament, that there would be a time where God would raise all the flesh again. So, yeah, Christ definitely was a risk to splitting their whole outfit up, because when he explains that, his spirit dwells in every man, where you've seen me, you've seen the Father, and where you see me doing, basically he says that as he's doing ministry and charitable services and healing the sick and all that. So he's saying literally, if you want to see God, help the unfortunate, be doing the work, and that's where you see God. Well, we can't have the government allow that to happen. If we cure the sick and the needy and the despondent, then what are all these organizations going to do for their money? How will big pharma sell, if people are cured? How will the educators do if someone's already taught their kids the alphabet? There's a lot that if people just read the Bible fast, they're going to miss out on it. And again, a lot of it applies to today.
Yep.
Thank you, Watt, for Acts 17:24. Exactly.
Yes. And what life, if you wouldn't mind coming up? My dog.
Yeah, I'll talk less. I'll talk less. I promise.
I just need to let her outside. That's what she went off about a second ago.
I eventually will have to walk that dog too, so it might be a shorter night. But this 15th Amendment, we should put that up on the screen and break it down, because I do. Let's just say I know how to pick it apart as well. They put what you call a poison pill in that amendment, and we'll get to that. Whether you want to go let the dog out, or let me know when you want to get to that part when we start breaking down that amendment.
Oh, that's not it. Uh-oh. Don't start playing. I thought the email you sent was it. It's not.
No, I sent you like 3 as replies, like back to back to back.
Oh.
First one was the Congress.gov or whatever, and that has the amendment. I want to read the amendment itself and pick its verbiage apart, just to show you guys where they can, the politicians and the lawyers and the like can put the knife in your back with it. And then the other would be, like I said, the thread from Grok. And then I sent you a video from 10th Amendment Center from the 19th that they did.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Watt. I appreciate you coming up.
Evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome. Monday we meet again.
Indeed. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it was my youngest sister's birthday, so we went out to eat for her birthday. So it's like swimming. You got to give your food time to digest before you get on the YouTubes.
I hear you. Thank you for the Acts 17:24 reference. You had said that a week or two ago, and I still, it's still a very profound reference if people pay attention to what is being said.
It is, I think we have all the tools we need inside of it. It's just bringing those tools out, utilizing them. Every tool remains neutral till we give it a purpose, put a spirit or an intent behind it,
Well, I have a view where it corresponds literally to things being tangible. Like the whole argument of, Jesus didn't resurrect and, it was all made up by the disciples. You literally have an account of Thomas, filling the wounds, going, no, this dude really has holes in his side and in his hands. This is real. It's like they there's so many things, and also the witnesses when Christ ascends to heaven and all that, all this stuff that comes down through the years. It correlates to actual physical things. If you have like that Indiana Jones biblical history or biblical archaeology mindset like I have, my biggest frustration has been, or one of my biggest frustrations has been, the governments in the Middle East, all in the name of keeping the peace, will stop archaeological expeditions before they go too far. So we're not 100% sure if that's the Ark of the Covenant up there in Turkey. We're not 100% sure, if those ossuaries that may have belonged to the family of Jesus, if they're really his.
I believe there's somebody, a group of entities or an entity that knows this stuff, that
Oh yeah.
type of knowledge just doesn't vanish. It may vanish from the history books, but it's not being erased totally. Somebody knows something.
Well, we call that the Vatican Library. If you do a rabbit hole
Even
on
if
what
they don't know where the real one is, they know enough to say, "Hey, these are just things that we're posing as the real one, just to keep the buzz or the hype going."
Yep. Like you saw that thing about the Ark of the Covenant being down there in Ethiopia, right?
Yeah, the sacred temple, that sacred little church that's guarded, and that guy stays there allegedly his whole life and just looks over whatever's there.
Well, I'm going to go one step further. Whatever they're guarding, these guys are there and they freaking get cancer from it. They lose their hair, their teeth, they go blind. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, why would I pledge to be around something like that unless it was that important? So it's either a big uranium rock or they're guarding something that gives off energy. Take your pick, you know?
yeah.
And
I know it's.
I told, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm just rambling.
Well, I was relating something to that. I told somebody earlier because I was in a Discord where there's a bunch of militant atheists in there because you got to pick your battlefields, and this guy was like blah blah blah, and I'm like, you're gonna love the quantum bros when they get in here because all the quantum kids that are doing quantum science are starting to find out this stuff, like different light waves that you can't see with your eye but they exist, or different sonic different sound waves that dogs and elephants and everything, like there's a whole hidden world that really exists that we as humans, God has given us a veil that we don't see and perceive all of it so we can keep our focus. Otherwise we'd be in awe of the majesty of everything that is created. You look at they call it the golden ratio when they cut up like plants and things like that, or they look at things on cellular level and they're all repeating. If you're saying that that was all a result of chaos, then what ordered the chaos? And then the flip side is, if you're saying that something came from nothing, you're immediately creating your own abstract that can exist. And that's much what people in the courts try to do to screw with we the people. They always try to say, well, this is how it is, period. It's like, well, where did that come from? If you can't show where it came from, it doesn't have standing. And that's what's happened with these judges and attorneys. They're trying to take things about the Constitution and say it applies this way when it doesn't. When Bonnie gets back here, we look at that 15th Amendment. You're gonna see, like, I'm gonna twist it, not because I want to, because I want to show you what they could do to argue against that 15th Amendment, and then we can point it to what they were doing in the South. Hold on here. I'm looking. Oh yeah, chessboard's talking about the Ark. Yeah, I had heard that one of the armies did raid the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia a couple decades back during one of these. Like it was either like during the Arab Spring or it was after they killed what's his name, Hamed Selassie or whatever, the Rastafarian Ethiopian ruler. It was somewhere between that period and now. So I would still think something, if it's that radioactive, would still leave latent radiation in its surroundings. Basically it would have leached into the area around it. But whatever whatever the case is, those priests remain faithful to this day. There's something to be said for that. Well, let me hit you with a question.
Yeah, Jones' depiction of it. Remember when they were carried and they looked upon it, and they just pretty much melted and were neutralized. And he said, "Don't look upon it," and that's the only thing that saved them. But yeah, if you remember that scene from the Indiana Jones and the Ark of the Covenant when they finally got it and tried to open it. So who knows?
Well,
It's hard
let's
to say.
take well, Jones is kind of right in his statement when he tells Marion not to look on it, because the idea is you're not supposed to behold the continents of God. The idea is you don't want to create an idol or an image versus a spirit that you
Yeah,
worship. And that's there's a thing in there in the Old Testament where Moses walks behind God, and it shocked me because revelation of the method, no pun intended, with Bible. Marvel Comics, they created like their celestial level beings that are way above the superheroes and the planet
yeah,
destroyers and stuff. And they have one character, I don't remember its name, but it's a celestial that has an outline of like the universe all within its body, and stars and planets, or it's a white outline. They put black in for like the depth of space, and there's always like stars and Saturn and all these things
yeah,
within its body. That's what Moses sees when he walks behind God. And it's like, holy smokes, because the founders of Marvel were Jewish. They would know, the story about Moses better than most. And I only saw that. It popped up in my head when I read through the King James. What was it? Year before last when I did that project where I read it cover to cover. And just that there going like, holy smokes, Marvel made a likeness of God in a way. They kind of made an image, not really a graven image, I guess, because it's not like a statue, but it's still printed, kind of like, inferring that one
It's
of their
kind of like
characters
a
is supposed
nod
to
in
be
a way, even if they don't directly acknowledge it. At least they're just saying, "Hey, even if they're all of our superheroes, there's a supreme being out there."
Well, that's the funny thing is they put that character in power and everything. Stan Lee has him above Thor. So all these kids who like to wave around their Thor hammers, it's like, bro, even even the people in Marvel Comics knew back in the 40s and the 30s, going on to today, like, they just because they're Jewish doesn't mean they don't acknowledge the true God, And it's funny, a lot of the folks who wrote a lot of these Vedas and poems from the Norse
Thor's
mythology,
day,
because Norse, well, they didn't keep like a written record in the same ways we think of, with their runes and all that. A lot of the stuff that's written in has elements of Christianity either layered on it or at bare minimum, it's the old Jewish, like Old Testament themes and also common
there
law
is
themes.
some of
That's
the
why,
stories are similar. Yeah,
yeah, you have a characters that die on behalf of humanity. You have a world-ending cycle. You have a trickster villain god, Loki.
Loki. Yeah,
That
the
stuff repeats.
Lokis.
Now, keep in mind, Marvel decided to illustrate Loki, of course, back in the day with big old horns on his head.
Yeah,
Imagine that. And I'll throw this one at you. What people forget is there used to be tin miners from Israel. They would mine tin throughout the Mediterranean. They'd go sell it up to the people up in Northern Europe, and that's supposedly how the common law traditions got up to them. So when they came to England and Central Europe, France, Germany, that area during their raids, they were basically, those people were receptive to biblical ideas during the back and forth because the Jewish tin mining families had already been there to kind of seed some of the background stories into their culture. I'm waiting for when they open up the Vatican or whatever, and we find out that all these temples around the world were like, the pre-Atlantean cultures, and you have yourself the oh wow, these folks did believe in God, but their temple was struck down and covered in vines, and that's why it's a pyramid today, or whatever.
oh yeah, so
That,
many questions. They only lead to more questions.
yeah, well, that's what the Mormons, were basically saying, and I can go more into that if I choose to, but the thing is they too they had a little bit of what you call their esoteric knowledge and their Masonic knowledge, and lo and
Yeah,
behold, the U.S. invade Utah. So in the 1800s, this is we've had a civil war, we've had this and that, but before that kicked off, yeah, does anyone remember the Great Utah War, where the U.S. Army versus Brigham Young? So when
Brigham
you know that
Young.
that culture, that tradition, yeah, there's a lot of reasons they wanted to go after it.
That wasn't that
But
long ago in history. We're fixing to celebrate 250. That wasn't even 250 years ago.
correct, that was at least 150, maybe a little bit less. And
Yeah,
what I'm looking at with that is that if the Mormons hadn't have been smart and retreated to the Wasatch Mountains and basically, kind of played some games, some tactics, the army could have destroyed those people, and maybe it would have woke everyone up to the fact that, yeah, the army has all the guns, and we the people should probably keep our guns too.
the
Yeah.
Utes, the Utah Utes.
Yeah,
So,
running you.
I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Are y'all talking about the freedom of religion?
Oh, we're all over the place at the moment.
Just kind of steamrolling out the random thoughts.
I was just curious because there's a huge discussion on my Facebook right now because I might have posted something that had to do with the prayer call that's being sounded all over these cities, and Dallas being one of them. And so where do we draw the line? I mean, in the discussion, I said, I understand freedom of religion and more than welcome to worship here. But when it goes more into looking like a control factor, then we have a problem. Or when, where's our bells? Remember when the church bells used to be ringing every Sunday? Why are they gone? And when we pray in a restaurant or wherever, we're expected to pray in silence. And so it just seems contradictory to the way we're doing it as to the way they are doing it. And one
What
of
do
the
you want to
people,
address first?
I'm sorry, yes.
Was that a question, Bonnie, or you got more?
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm offering Watt or you try jump, because that's actually a very juicy topic.
And it is right now. It's very talked about.
I'm seeing
Very
the
concerning.
chat too is kind of.
I agree, Brew.
Maybe rapper everybody. So how's my audio coming in?
Hey, Arkwell, man. You are roboting a little bit, Sean.
Bonnie?
Yep. Am I still here?
I'm still here.
Okay. We're good.
Mine
Okay.
may be a little choppy. I don't know if y'all can hear me clearly or not, but yeah, my Wi-Fi, something wrong with my Wi-Fi. They're working on the line, so I'm without the Wi-Fi tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a short night because it's not real great out here either. But man, I have some stuff to go over tomorrow night. Hopefully,
Allegedly.
let's see if we can hear you now, Sean.
Yeah, sorry about that. It cut out. That was weird. Maybe they don't like what I've been saying.
Yeah.
Well, what I was doing, I was offering you, Bonnie, and Watt, if you wanted to continue or take that topic, I was offering you guys the floor, and then it just cut. It's a really juicy topic. That's why I'm asking if you guys want to continue real quick.
It is, and that's where I'm kind of like questioning, because we do have freedom of religion. Of course, they're playing on that as to why they should be able to do anything that they want to do, but at the same time, we have laws. So, are they overstepping any laws, or when you go on live TV and say that you want to convert everyone, then that becomes an issue, I believe. We're not doing that. We will have you converted. I mean, we can speak of Jesus and God and hope that we're all going to be in heaven together, but we don't know. And so it's and then there you go too. Thank you, Gma. Religion itself is man-made, correct?
Correct.
So Why is that even in the Constitution?
There's the Puritans and the King George and so on, and plus it gave a neutral ground for everybody, whether they were the Catholics in Maryland, the Quakers in Pennsylvania, the Episcopalians, the Anglicans. It gave everyone a neutral, secular government so they could get business done versus having fights about religion all day. But here's the thing. Okay, so these outsiders have come to our shore without assimilating, and they got their call for prayer. It's not so much that they have to stop. You just use their own game against them. You reinstitute the church bells, and you use the equal footing or equal rights doctrine. It's just like when they tell a Latino or black Trump supporter they can't vote for Trump, and then that black or Latino Trump supporter turn around and say, "Are you using your white privilege on me?" You use their levers right back on them, and they can't say no at that point. The second they say no, you got them in that discrimination lawsuit, and that kind of will go into that 15th Amendment, although that's more, for voting and things of that sort. It's still a way to catch them. But again, do the people want to get off their tail and take that issue before their city council, their board of supervisors, what have you? Some are, there's a handful, but they're doing it alone. So their voices in the wilderness. So if you have those voices in your wilderness, you need to bolster them, back them up on these issues, folks. You need to have their back. And I'm not just trying to give people, the primrose path version of this. There will be pushback against you. There will be people who will, not want you to have your freedom of religion. They won't want you to have your church bells. They won't want you to have your cross around your neck or whatever. They won't want you to have your bacon on your burger. Be a darn shame too if you cough on them after chewing some bacon bits. I'm just saying, but
Right.
The fact of the matter is, we're not going to pick a fight with them, but we are going to say, hey, we have our rights too. And that's the key part. Most Americans have been taught to basically curl up in a ball and pee themselves while they're getting jumped. And it's like, no, that's actually how you get killed when people jump you. If you're dealing with multiple people at the same time, you keep moving. If you must, you run, or you keep moving between person to person to person. You never let yourself go to the ground. Even when you're curled up in a ball, these kids these days will kick you in the head. There's no Marcus of Queensberry rules in the real world. And I tell you, these folks, there's a percentage of them that aren't assimilating. They may not become terrorists, but they are going to raise their kids to be punks and to be brats that will have an attitude. I've seen it with the Latinos here in the Southwest. All the DACA kids, those are the kids who are, always at school with Sharpies tagging everything and gangbanging and everything. And now they're like, oh, I'm so concerned. I love my country. No, you're a freaking juvenile delinquent, and you're still a juvenile delinquent. You're just in your 30s. The only difference is you haven't been, deported yet because nobody had the courage to demand that we have equal rights, and you guys need to follow the law as much as we do. Just saying. Yeah, Al Bundy pointed out about the first cousin marriage thing in the third world. Well, problem is then you bring people over who are mentally derelict into our culture, and they're ticking time bombs. Now, that said, if we are reinstituting and reusing Army Field Training Manual 2000-25, there's actually a prohibition against bringing those type of immigrants over. The United States used to do that up until Franklin Roosevelt got installed. Yeah, Roosevelt's a closet socialist, one of the not so well-known secrets. So I'm not going to get too far down that rabbit hole tonight. But welcome. Good to see you, Dee.
Good to see you
Hope
all.
the drive was easy.
I was in town all day. I'm sorry to be missing class, Bonnie. I apologize.
You're fine. I know it's a busy time.
Yup.
Well, we haven't picked the 15th Amendment apart just yet. So when Bonnie wants to post it up on that screen or read it to us, I will do the whole chunk by chunk thing.
Do I have it in an email or do I need to Google it?
I emailed you a link to it on the like Congress.gov. So it should have the text and the there's a what do you call it, like sub clauses, or it's broken into two parts. That right there should give you a clue.
Okay. Let me showing some of
It was
these.
also last of the 3 Reconstruction amendments during the Reconstruction period after the Civil War.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had to recreate the illusion that we were still the same republic we were before the country was broken and Congress wouldn't sign die. So they used these amendments to kind of gloss that over. Very crafty.
Okay, let me see if I can find it in there.
And of course, it said that, people had the right to vote or whatnot, but it didn't say anything about wealth. So, of course, they used that to the certain advantages,
Mm-hmm.
wealth and land ownership. I mean, even still now, of course, if you own land, of course, you're paying a tax on it, but it's yours for the time being. It's better than not having it. So, it still has its value, but even more than now, in a way.
Is it a video?
Well, hold on. I'll check my, I might get bumped out. I'll check my Gmail again and see if it's sent to you. It should be in your inbox. 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, everyone in chat. Much love. See a lot of highs.
Yeah.
Much love.
Good evening, everybody.
What? Always good to hear your voice.
Always good to see
wait.
you and hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Scroll down, Bonnie.
Uh-oh.
Slow down, Bonnie.
Come on, Bonnie.
You done kick Sean off. You done lost the article.
He said he might get kicked. He booed himself. He can't.
Did Sean leave? Oh no. Okay.
He couldn't handle it. Like, I'm about to be out of here.
Maybe this is what he's wanting me to share. Let's see. You doing all right, Dee?
Yes, ma'am. I am.
Sound like you conquered the world today.
I feel like I conquered the world today. Thank you very much. I'm glad you noticed.
I could hear it. I could hear the victory tone.
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, man, the day's been one
Yeah, it
heck
was a
of a
busy
week.
day.
And I'm like, it's only
Mhm.
Monday.
It's only Monday, baby. Exactly.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and tomorrow's just as busy. I have an appointment, then I have a someone coming over for bids, and it, it's going to be another crazy day. And my daughter thought I was going home. Hey, Chuck.
To do your tree, to do the tree work.
No, we already had bids for that. This is
Okay.
more. The big house has some floors that needs to be replaced. Flooring.
I gotcha.
That's not. I don't know. We'll see about that. And then I'm thinking of putting like a pole barn roof over the home and making it wider than the home so that it would create an instant overhang for the front deck. And then
I've seen people do that.
yeah, and it's also a protection, and it would have a metal roof for water collection, and so it would have multiple uses. I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
So just want to see about what it would run.
Yeah. Yeah, get some different estimates and ask them, even if it may be too much or you have to rethink it, ask them how long is their estimate good for. You know,
Hmm.
how long can they guarantee this price?
Yeah.
Your estimates, 30 days.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, good night. Our estimates are only good for 30 days.
Yeah, there you go. That's decent. You know, that's enough time to think about it at least.
I was
Hmm.
thinking a year, but guess not.
Right.
Just
Sean, is this what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's what I resent you, but I got booted while I was in the Gmail, and then I opened up the wrong StreamYard tab from the other night in the memory of the phone when you start, going into your history. So
Hmm.
I'm back, and yeah, this here, I'm going to do this one backwards if that sounds cool to you. I mean, like I said, if we were these bad guy attorneys and lawyers, or these carpetbaggers that were making trouble in the South and stuff. See,
Hmm.
some of them folks from the North, like everyone knows, the folks in Chicago, for example, were notoriously, let's just say, not friendly to the freemen that came up from the South after the Civil War. So, uh, and that's not a knock on anyone from Chicago today. Thankfully, attitudes have changed a little bit. But
Oh yeah, it better not be. You know
yeah,
it better not be.
exactly. I love my
You
Chicago
know
people.
they're mafia though. Come on. It's been
Yeah,
dirty for a long time, please.
but
We all know.
my
Just like
my two favorite people from Chicago are in this order: D and CM Punk. So there you go.
oh, well,
Anyway,
thank you.
nice.
yeah,
Good company.
hey, he's got a good title reign going.
You're
So,
definitely one of my favorite Californians, Sean. That's for
well,
sure.
thank you. So this 15th Amendment, the way they ended it with that Section 2, guys, have you looked at that? The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. That's where
Yeah,
attorneys and lawyers will have a field day. What is appropriate legislation?
Whatever they
Right?
want.
They left it open ended. What little now the purpose of it? Let's go back into Section 1 now. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. And then it has that little dash or hyphen, whatever. The thing is, they're saying that the right to vote will not be denied or abridged, and Congress can make appropriate legislation to enforce that. Well, what if they don't make any legislation to enforce that? What if they twiddle their thumbs? Basically, that creates a not just an abdication of power, but it's like when you do an executive order and the next president gets rid of it and then the next president brings it back. You're basically creating a political football.
yeah,
Even bigger, folks, for the South, this allowed Southern states, because Congress would not make any further movement to enforce the folks who came up with Jim Crow and the Ku Klux Klan, and all these people were able to intimidate people, whether they were white Republican abolitionists or freed slaves or Buffalo soldiers. Take your pick of whoever was in the South and the
yeah.
West U.S. at
Separate
that
but
time.
equal.
Yeah,
Much love,
well, that's what they
Carolina.
did. They separated the citizens, and then they said, yeah, you could have this as your voting booth, and maybe the voting booth was, got rotten wood, and you didn't have appropriate lamps or appropriate lighting, so people had trouble reading what the ballot said.
Yeah.
I'm still struck from the movie The Free State of Jones with
Free State of
Matthew
Jones. I was
McConaughey.
just thinking that. Yeah,
You see the
Was
contrast,
that
and
with
I know Holly,
all right, all right, all right?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, that was a great movie. The Swamp, right?
correct,
yeah. It was a good movie.
and
Mm-hmm.
would you guys say that the sentiment is true and correct? It's just Hollywood kind of put that story out at a very suspicious timing
Yeah.
because yeah,
Probably.
but yeah,
I don't
Al saying
remember the timing actually. Could you refresh me? What was the timing?
let's just say certain Orange Man was, I believe, in his first term,
Mm-hmm.
and Hollywood's been trying to stoke Civil War type stuff. So while the message is true, the flip side is Hollywood wasn't making it out of the goodness of their hearts. You know what I mean?
They never
Matthew
are.
McConaughey, yeah, Matthew McConaughey is one of those never Trumper Hollywoodites. So he
Mm-hmm.
probably was licking his lips to jump on that role, even though it's a true story. What I would love to see is an update on the like a true story of the Tulsa Oklahoma riots, aka Black Wall Street, being burned down because a Democrat newspaper kept putting out these lies about a rape and slandering the Black community, and then the Democrat white community there went and rioted and burned down their business district. That would be a story the Democrats in Hollywood would never touch, of course. But how can you get that situation? Section 1 says your vote's not going to be denied, but Section 2 says Congress will have, basically, if you don't enforce anything by never enacting legislation to enforce, by leaving it open-ended, it's like when the Supreme Court went against Andrew Jackson, and he replied, "The Supreme Court has made their decision. Now let's see them keep it." You guys get what I'm saying, Bonnie, Wetlife, D, that they kind of they wanted to create the illusion that they fixed the Civil War issues, but in reality, they didn't.
No, thank you for speaking plainly, not
Yeah,
making me have to figure out what in the world you were saying.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, because when you say they went side die or whatever you call that, is that
tiny
when
die. Yeah,
they exited the scene and then our
yep.
little corporation came in and people haven't figured out that we got to get better united somehow. I think
Well,
we're going to figure it out. I think we're going to figure it out.
Well, D, this issue, they are trying to make it look like the corporation, everything was normal. So they had to pass some legislation real quick with these Congress members that, Lincoln or Johnson or later Grant, they didn't like them. They'd kick them out, send them, go back to the South and say, give us a new Congress guy we do like. They would stack these Congresses to pass these quote unquote laws, these amendments, and then be like, see, you got everything. Everything's hunkadory. In a way, if you're thinking long term, how are you going to make America the wealthiest nation, extract its wealth, and then cause race riots and collapse it into a depression and make it third world again? You would create amendments just like this one that 100 years later result in the civil rights movement, which was good because finally you could actually enforce when someone discriminates against you. You could actually stop them now from doing it. And then, stuff that came further with our 2020 riots. But if you're playing a long game, and you have you plan your grandchildren are going to be, you're a wealthy family, your grandchildren are going to continue, ruling the world in your name. This would be the type of amendment you would slip into something as precious as the U.S. Constitution to screw with it, so that later it could be undone by the people turning on each other. Because we almost saw that in the 60s, and we almost saw it in 2020, and we might see it again.
Well, until
So
it gets called out that you have a bunch of imposters, it would happen on occasion too, where, people slip in all the time and say, oh, I'm John Doe or whatever, and they pretend who they are, which is a scary thing why the biometrics might be so easily accepted. When if it's ever revealed how much of an imposter a lot of these people are. There was one time there was a whole was it a whole bunch of judges or one judge? I mean, there's always been shady shit that goes on, and we're not really, we don't talk about the imposters or the infiltration enough to really be more on guard and to realize it. They get away with this shit all the time. We realize it later. We realize it later after, they're gone. If we ever realize it.
We
It's
lost
just
Sean.
learning and picking up things at different time. It's not like we're back in school and we're all in the same grade reading the same book. Ultimately we all have a lot of the same goals, family, life, uh, God, whatever it may be. But we're all
Peace.
looking and studying things at different times.
Mhm.
Understanding and figuring out things at different times. It all hits us differently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, especially where we're at in the journey of truth.
Yeah, it all hits us at different times, different ways, different walks of life.
Hmm. There he is. Hey, welcome back.
yeah, sorry about that. I was going to reply to Cynthia about the Civil War comment you guys just highlighted, and it goes red, which lets me know that the data is not transmitting. And then as I go to audio check and say, hey, can you guys hear me? It's like blip. So bounced right back in. Well, the back of the phone's also getting warm because I was charging it, but I got 70% power. I think we can last another, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, no problem.
Yes.
But that 15th Amendment, guys, break it down, hit it with your angles. What do you guys think?
That's a good one.
I haven't even looked at it. I was trying to find my book. I was listening to you, but
I can read it, forward it to
yeah,
the
read it.
proper way.
Yeah, read it for me. I can't see
Sure.
anything. I gotta find my book.
Okay, so 15th Amendment, Section 1, the right of the citizens of the United States, and they keep United and States capitalized. Citizens is lowercase in this situation.
Mhm.
Remember what I said about the switch on the capital C of citizens? So anyway, right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States, again capitalized, or by any state capitalized on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude, hyphen, section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. I'm going to back up while you get your thoughts together, D. Previous condition of servitude. So does that mean if you did some time as maybe in jail? No, what they're saying is you were a slave, what have you. Now, I would argue that maybe in some conditions, because people have argued this, that you are put into involuntary servitude when you're in jail, like on the chain gang. So if are you denied your right to vote when you've been made a slave in prison? And that's where the issue of paying your debt to society as a felon, in the Department of Rehabilitation, that's where that comes in, which we don't have Department of Rehabilitation anymore. We have Department of Corrections. And it's because they're concerned about correcting the balance on the sheets. And you do that chain gang labor to work off what they call your debt to society, as opposed to rehabilitating you so you're no longer a criminal. So there's little like side nuggets with Article 15 here. D, you have your question or thought ready?
No, I don't. I'm trying to find my book because all I know is after Amendment 11, it all sounds like a lot of fuckery. That's all I can say. I don't.
Giving
The citizen
more
stuff.
power to the government.
Yeah, it's the citizen stuff. It's the total takeover. It's so loose. You studied how much they studied to put the Bill of Rights as the 10 amendments, and then it just got totally crazy, and then the floodgates opened up at that point, whatever year that was. And
Hmm.
I can't find my book. Just maybe put Watt on the spot instead. I yield.
Well, why?
What
Yeah,
happened? I'm back.
Yeah, well, we're just asking for your thoughts over this 15th Amendment, what we've been reading. And D makes a good point. The first 10 amendments, the Constitution, are kind of concise and compact and mean what they mean. And we find this one that so far I have kind of found, two questionable parts in it, with that second part, of course, being highly questionable. So what do you pick out of this? Do you think this amendment was well drafted, or do you think they just slapped it together to try to, as you pointed out, wrap up Reconstruction and say, hey, we got it done? What do you think, man?
I don't think anything's just, even if it would have the appearance of being slapped together, as much as we think these people are idiots. I mean, they're educated idiots at best. So I don't think nothing's put slapped together. Everything's strategic. Um, but I think it just leave it open. It left it open ended like that because it may not have segregated against color, religion, sex, or whatever at the time, but if you didn't have land, that's one of the things that it fell into those open-ended things. If you didn't have land, you couldn't have been given the right to vote or something like that. Like in the instance of
Right,
the
that's
free
right,
state of
Watt.
Jonesboro.
Mhm. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
I
you
hear
know,
you.
technically, I'm not discriminating against Rex, sex, creed, race, or color, but technically I'm discriminating because you don't own no land. You're not a man.
Well, let me go with you on that further, Watt. Do you remember they also used to have what were called vagrancy laws? because maybe you were bushed,
Yeah,
you came from another town and you sat in the park on the bench for an hour too long.
yeah.
And they don't
Familiar.
they they would accuse more often than not black males of being vagrants too. So they would kind of mix it up a little bit, and the
Yep.
vagrancy implies you don't have a home or land. So you're right on point with that.
And it just all the 13th, 14th, and 15th, they kind of go all kind of hand to hand and packaged together. And those, like I said, the 15th was the last one during the quote unquote Reconstruction uh, period during the after the Civil War.
Now, uh, if I may, Bonnie, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in agreement with Watt, but I see Echo's question came up. So she's asking, how are we not in servitude as the alleged national debt is expected to be paid by the citizens that did not create the debt? So she's kind of correct, because it means you're in bondage, and bondage is slavery or servitude. That's a interesting thought right there. That
Yep.
our taxes are working. Now, let's see here. Your rights shall not be denied or abridged. And so you're on a, well, actually, the answer's in that. Um, if you're not a party to the Constitution, unless you swear to it, as these new immigrants are doing, or you work for the government, then you don't need to worry about that corporation's debt or being, on the hook for it. Again, they actually lowercased the C when referring to the title of citizen in this document, as opposed to uppercasing it. Our friend from Alaska pointed out it was the one historical document where they broke the rule and reversed it, which was probably their trick to try to hide the legalese that's in the document. So when we look at that, it's yeah, I get that as a former Marine, technically I'm still on the hook for that because I did my little contract. I have an honorable discharge, but I took an oath and the oath never expires. That's the trick with oaths, people. It's why you read in the Bible to be careful about not swearing by man or by earth or, anything in heaven. Oaths are a pretty heavy deal. So in theory, till 65 years of age, I can be conscripted. So can all the other veterans in this chat, unless we're too disabled. So that's a big deal. Are you a constitutor? Are you party to that deal? If you're not, that debt's not your debt. Now if you bind yourself, say you work for Gavin Newsom in some type of job where you have to take an oath to the state of California Constitution and the United States Constitution, then yeah, you just tied yourself up in all that drama. So be careful what you sign on for. That's the best lesson I can give you. And the flip side is, yeah, you're paying taxes into that corporation, which, because there's a debt, it seems like everyone's always going to be paying taxes into it. That's kind of the hustle, is that the people who created the debt, they're not the only ones paying. In fact, because they create corporations that create more taxpayers, they get the break that they don't have to pay the taxes, but the workers do. That's the big hustle, and why people in America have always been telling you to start your own business, because you have to think like a businessman. You have to think like you're dealing with an economy. You create a business and you hire more people who pay their taxes. You get the tax break for creating more taxpayers. And
See?
if you're younger and you
That's
haven't had basic,
Yeah.
economics, you don't know this.
but that's not right. That's
I
that's
agree.
like mm,
All I have in my notes, I can't find my book. I think it's down. Maybe I had it down in the she shed or something. But that the 15th Amendment gave them all males the right to vote. That's just all I really can contribute right now. I'm sorry. It was not studied
That's
up
right.
this week.
No, that's correct.
Mhm.
It wasn't universal suffrage for women. You're correct. But part of that
I,
was the intent of the founders was it was the head of the household. So each household, as Watt points out, with the ownership of land and a home and a house, it was each household had a vote, not the teenagers, not the kids, and not the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually a very good insight there, Dee.
Well, thank you, Sean. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I've forgotten all about women's
Amendments
suffrage.
13 through 16. Let me see what else. I don't know where my book is. That's aggravating me. But a lot of that, I remember, all men are created equal. There's a lot of things that it seemed like, even the civil rights movement was, there were things that were already there in our Constitution that we could have just referred to rather than creating these new laws and new movements and new this and new that. But it didn't go down that way. So I don't know what to say about it, but
Well, what did they brainwash everyone to do if they had a problem with the government? It was call your congressman or write your congressman. That wasn't enough. Calling and writing them, yeah, that you got some letters and they said, okay, my constituents are angry. I'll vote this way on a bill. They again, it's what I talk about when you have to show up in person sometimes because they need to know there's a living, breathing soul behind that pen and that there are real people that are angry. This is not some letter writing campaign when people, are displeased with them. This doesn't mean you get unruly and cuss them out of the county board of supervisors meeting and chase them out of the school board or whatever. Although that is entertaining to watch from other groups doing that.
it
But
really is.
uh,
Yes. I do enjoy that.
yeah, I do get a smirk on my face. But if those people were to challenge that they were removed under duress, quote unquote, then they could get their positions back. Obviously, they didn't care to get their positions back, but that's something we should look at, folks. A lot of these school boards that were overturned by citizens or the people at the local level, whichever verbiage you want, those people, as far as I know, did not give up their seats on those school boards, and they have not flipped back to those bad actor teachers or bad actor school board members. Just one little element of we the people had enough, and we said, regardless of our religion, our background, our rights, we're going to go by this constitution that you guys are out of line with, because this amendment kind of is in the spirit of the rest of the constitution. That's why I kind like I recognize it as it got a poison pill, but I like it in that it is about what Dee just quoted, all men are created equal, we the people, that type of thing. So it expands on that idea, the Jefferson style of liberalism. So, it would be like, I don't want to ever see this amendment removed, but at the same time, I recognize that, yes, they kind of set up a sabotage, maybe even centuries in the making with it. You'll
Hmm. Oh, I just found a very geeky chart. You guys are all going to be jealous. Let me see if I can show you this.
cool.
Ooh, look at this. The Constitution at a glance review. I didn't even know I had this in this notebook here, but can you see any of it?
That's a pretty in depth.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It has all the amendments and everything. This is at the end of the lesson I taught, but then I'm supposed to fill this out to try to help. It's a summary and memorization guide to the Constitution. This would be fun to do online because here's each article and then each or each amendment and then each article that relates to each amendment. Because that stuff gets confusing. To try to put it in each place. So yeah, the 15th, it's not much here about it. I do remember a lot about the citizenship and all that stuff. And we didn't even talk about that last week about the 14th Amendment, but wasn't that where a lot of that birth certificate stuff came in? Did we, maybe you guys did bring it up and when I was late. Anyway, that's that.
We 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 Dee, we did touch on it.
Okay.
I actually had Bonnie and Watt. I had told because I'm not deep into the 14th as much as other people are, so I had them,
Mhm.
quote unquote, teach me.
Yeah.
And, it would be boring if I'm like talking all the time. I know, but
Huh.
here tonight, this amendment, like I said, we have a lot we can pick out of it. That it's only two little sections, and we can see already they may have been thinking ahead. If we put our cynical conspiracy theory mind to it, they could have been thinking ahead for future trouble. Or we could say, hey, they made the best shot out of it. They wanted to fix the Civil War. They were in a hurry, and at the time, maybe even it seemed like a good idea. At the time, army, when they were running the country under martial law from Lincoln, who had been slain, they're like, well, we're kind of running this country. We don't know what to do. Let's give it to the lawyers. They'll know what to do. And of course, the lawyers are like, well, we'll form a corporate entity and sign everybody to it. And from that point, oh, by the way, you guys are now back under the crown. Don't tell anybody. So that's kind of how it got from there to the 1913 and the Federal Reserve, and that brought us pretty much further under that system. But that's stuff we're kind of repeating ourselves on.
Are we talking about the 15th Amendment still? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm kind of saying that this Civil War situation, Reconstruction, like you then had your Victorian age, Gilded Age, when you go into the 1900s, and as we're beginning to become the most prosperous economy again, oh gee, Federal Reserve, oh gee, World War I, oh gee, Great Depression, we're back to being scrambling for how can we fix our country. Oh gee, World War II finalizes the World War I plan. And then America, now the economy's good again. And then they start opening the door to China, and it's like it never fails. They rebuild our economy, rebuild our structure, and then they collapse us and sell us out to somebody else. So I kind of look at this amendment was in a way it's almost going to be buried, because there's 27 amendments, 25 amendments, somewhere in that ballpark.
25, yeah.
So you have this one, number 15. Someone's just skimming through, they would miss this amendment real quick, despite it prohibiting discrimination, which is kind of a big deal, but not having any teeth behind it. I yield.
It's amazing how you can take such a short little amendment and go into so much more detail.
Well, it's a matter of studying knowledge and hoping to apply the knowledge to real world solutions. Something, we talk about in our assembly and stuff when we vet people into an assembly, because we do form the grand jury every now and then, we have to establish, okay, would they be able to be a jurist? So I love a lot of patriots that, they're maybe they have a health condition where they have to be on medications. It's like, yeah, that would mean you couldn't be a jurist. So I'm not saying no, you can't serve your country, but that particular role, because of your medications, you might not be capable in serving it. Things of that sort. The American people. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Maybe not in the way of travel or anything like that, but there are numerous things we can do at home.
Agreed.
That help with the assembly. If you have a treasurer or I don't know if offices are set, it seems that could raise some problems. But
well, a good example, Bonnie, is that if I can build upon this, for example, is that we all know there are people who are disabled who are great patriots, and the left would do euthanasia on all of them just because they would convenience to the progress of society. So those disabled people, while they're great patriots, realistically, for example, say like me, I wear glasses, right? So without my glasses, I have trouble seeing. If anyone ever challenged me as a witness, if I didn't have my glasses on during something happening, the whole case or situation will be thrown out. So people have to think in that context, are you a good witness? Can you witness things and recall what you witness? It doesn't mean you can't serve your country, but it means in this situation, in this particular body, are you useful for that? Now, maybe you're really good though with drafting documents. So there's something to be said there for that. There's all these different things that come in for the people. When we assemble, it can't be necessarily feel good. It's more about what is the facts, what is the logic, and is it going to get the situation taken care of? And a lot of that, America's been programmed to be the whole oh, we got to go with the feelings and feel good type mindset. If you read Army Field Training Manual 2000-25, there's not a lot of feel good nonsense in there. It's more about this is how it is and this is why, because it works. Because if it doesn't work, you wind up back at war. The Army was getting tired of going to war all the time because globalist interests, even this is, mind you, post World War One. The American people were being accused of this and that because they wanted to be isolated from the rest of the world, because we lost thousands of men in Europe across the ocean away. So we said we're not going to take refugees that are mentally disabled. We're not going to take refugees that are criminals. We're not going to take refugees that have disease. Now today, everyone will say that's not nice. You don't have any feelings. Back then, we didn't have the medicines we did for today for like typhoid or for you know uh, plague or for smallpox, things of that sort. So there is a element of you got to understand where you can apply solutions and where you can't. You got to look for other solutions. I hope that helps. I yield.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to explain. Don't know if I explained it very well to Ranger. Seems to be a new one. Now somebody's knocking. Excuse me.
He wanted to talk too, huh?
Yeah.
I'm seeing so much in the chat right now. Some really good comments. Yeah, hilarious makes a good point right there, where the person in the wheelchair could be like the teacher and do the studies with the child. Exactly. But are you going to say you have to call the militia? Is that person with a wheelchair going to be on the front line? No, they could be at the supply line. You see, you got to think around it, folks. They could be in the kitchen helping prep the meals for the guys who are going to go plug up the dam as the town's about to get flooded, or help with organize. I'm using the kitchen analogy, but organize the kitchen so the bucket brigade that's helping the fire department can be dealt with. Think about that, folks. When was the last time we've ever had a bucket brigade? You barely even hear about volunteer firefighters anymore. Oh, wait, I do know of one. He might have been in the chat earlier, but you know, I take that back. He's a sworn firefighter now, but Al Bundy. I like that. I don't recall anyone caring about my feelings growing up. Yeah, pretty much. I'm right there with you. But this is the thing: is we the people have to come together, and we have to take our talents and our skills and make things work. And we have to be careful that if we have people who are unreliable, don't give them a duty where they got to be reliable, because that if they're flaky, they're going to flake out. So the people who are solid, you got to find out who's solid and who's kind of and you go from there. And you can make people who are sometimes they can become solid people over time, whether it's a knowledge base, routine, or just giving them a little bit of responsibility. Let's see
Yep.
here. I'm seeing from Ranger. Yeah, Ranger is correct about the first being nullified, and the end of the first is what will free us back up to clear up that part. Petition for redress of grievances. Because as far as Congress
Found.
knows, that Israeli money speaks louder.
Mm.
Go ahead, Dee.
Oh, I found my book. So I was just looking at what the notes were in here. And yeah, I realized this was
Okay.
a lot about slavery too. Let me just read a couple sentences what I have to contribute about the 15th Amendment. um So, the rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any individual state on account of race, color, or previous condition and servitude. It says here, and this is the Making of America book by Dr. Skousen. The founders recognized that human nature is a combination of sunshine and shadow. On the sunshine side, we find the perfectibility of human reason and the high aspiration of the human spirit, that make civilization possible. On the dark side, we find the imperfectibility of human emotion, which gives vent to ugly manifestations of passion and greed. One of these tendencies, which emerges from the shadow of man's darker side, is the inclination to live by the sweat of other men's brows. There are all kinds of ways for a man to get other men into a state of bondage or involuntary servitude. The milder forms include high confiscatory interest rates, or getting a sharecropper to work for 10% of the harvest, or paying a miserly wage for a day of hard labor. The most degraded bondage is outright slavery, where one human being pretends to own another, body and soul. And it just goes on and on. But I just had underlined that. I like that little paragraph. I'm just going to read a little more and I yield for now.
Thank you, Dee. Scalson's always got some good insights.
Oh, indeed, the best books. The best books. But yeah, it's a lot about the slaves being freed. I remember, um, they had to put a date on it because people were so upset, and they just, of course, you had the whole story of the South and the different sides that killed each other over it.
Well, let's take a moment here. Bonnie, I sent you uh, a link to Grok. I want you guys to take a gander at this because part of the thing that I looked at was there were a lot of court cases that came out of this. Now, I don't know the details of the courts. My point is the quantity. And Bonnie, if you go into that Grok link and pull that up and just scroll it, it's like every couple of years there was a case relating to this 15th Amendment. It seemed like somebody somewhere just couldn't help but, discriminate and wind up bringing it before the courts. And I've noticed we're not hearing about any 15th Amendment cases in our modern era today. You don't really hear people talk about it. Like I said, it's kind of buried between the 27th and the First Amendments where people just gloss over it, although it has a great sentiment at its core. And then conversely, it has that poison pill by not having any fangs. Will you be able to do that, Bonnie? Put the Grok link up on the screen for everyone to look at.
Did I lose everybody?
No, but
Oh, I can hear
now
you
we're
now.
hearing you. Maybe you were muted, I think.
No, I was muted.
Mm-hmm.
The granddaughter and daughter are here going through and raiding my cabinets.
Mm. Oh, you know what? Can I share one more thing that happened that was kind of a big deal? It said why emancipation was delayed. Because in 1776, Thomas Jefferson compiled a formula which would have eliminated slavery in one generation and prevented the fractal destruction of the war between the states. It goes on and on and on. But then what happened was in 1793, Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, which made it possible to mechanically separate short staple cotton from the seeds so it no longer had to be tediously done by hand. The whole industry changed almost overnight. The South began to produce bales of cotton in quantities never believed possible. The price dropped from a high of $1 a pound to just a few cents. Suddenly, King Cotton was back on the throne, and so was slavery. So I
Yep.
remember that too. That was a big deal. Yeah, I yield.
Yep. You still with us, Bonnie?
Yeah, I think she muted because her granddaughter's noisy.
They're going through boxes. So.
We love the
That's
noise.
all
I
right.
love the noisy kids. Is
But
that my twin? Is
Good
that my
night.
twin girl that we were twinning with?
I don't think so.
Mm,
The
okay.
little one?
Yeah, we were both wearing a black skirt, remember?
Yes, yes, that's her.
Hmm. She
She
pointed it out. She goes, "We match."
she's moved in with me. She told me today. She said, "I found two more roommates for us," and I'm like,
Oh.
"Wait a minute. I think your mom might have something to say about this."
Yeah, I don't think she'll go for it.
No, but
Mm-mm.
she's been staying up here with me the whole time I've been here,
Mm-hmm.
enjoying every minute of it. I am.
Good.
I think she is too.
Good. Mm.
Yeah, hilarious. Earlier at 8:12 posted a quote from 1 Corinthians 7:22, and that is, I would say, an appropriate form of slavery in terms of your relationship to Christ. But the thing there is, you'll have someone argue, "Oh my gosh, they said slave in the Bible." It's like, you actually go through the Bible. There's different forms of it, just like Dr. Scalzon just spoke of
Mhm.
in that excerpt that Dee read. And some of those forms of slavery were not chattel slavery or involuntary servitude. They were actually contracted, or
Mhm.
you could be a slave and then you're offered your freedom and you say, "No, I like it here. I like how my master treats me because, he treats me in a godly way and I see the wealth of his house," and so on. And these slaves would actually opt to stay with a family they were slaves of.
Sometimes.
A lot did. I think a lot more did than didn't. Also
But
because they were they were helping raise the children and they would get attached to those children.
and the children were raised together a lot of times as friends.
Yes.
Not to say chattel slavery is right, but the other forms, a lot of it, you like on YouTube, if you guys have gone across it, it's like a old grainy recording, but it's a voice from the 1800s. There was a guy who lived through this, and he was recorded onto a record player or whatever, onto a record, and he talked about how it was being raised in the South like that, and he didn't think he was any different from the kids that were the children of the slaves his parents owned. It wasn't a
Mm,
big slave family. They had a modest household, but he had like basically what he considered like a couple of siblings or fellow children, and it's because
mhm.
the slave raising him, basically babysitting him, also had her kids, so they were all raised together, played together, etc. That distinction, I'm going to relate it to what Wild Dragon said. That distinction, one man can own another. That ownership only exists when somebody uses force of arms. It's only imagination that links a person into, from opening a door or from jumping over a fence or, getting in a car and driving away, whatever the case is. In a funny way, got upset when Kanye said slavery is, a mental issue, but he kind of is correct because if someone's using the force of arms to chain you up and keep you enslaved, that's where you would be justified in cutting those chains and maybe up, depending on the level of abuse or whatever, taking off and maybe, harming the slave master as you escape. But
It's
it's really about mentally making a decision. Are you a slave or are you going to be free? Good, Bonnie?
that's exactly true. It would be just like any of us in the human trafficking. If it's being done by force, if you're causing harm to a person in any way, then you're out of line. And um, that's what I've heard a lot of people talk about LBJ being so prejudiced. And um, I, I don't know. I didn't know him personally. I knew his family, but his cook, they loved her. And so much that her son um, had a high position on the ranch. And as far as I know, still works there voluntarily, not forcefully.
Well, the thing with that is he may have a loyalty to that place and those family members. The other element of it is that, yeah, Jeff, the thing with you find folks with these folks who get into politics versus, being one of us average people, it's like Hillary Clinton says, you have your public policy and your private policy. And that part of WikiLeaks got her into trouble in 2016, along with the Bernie Sanders stuff. So LBJ privately, he might be great to some people, but he was a monster to other people. So it just
Yes.
depends on which
No, I know.
version of his faith you run into.
Yes. No, he was not liked by locals at all. So I know he did some devious things.
Well, I wanted to see. I was asking when you initially went away, Bonnie, if you could pull up the Grok link that I sent you. There's a fair amount of court cases, and I just wanted to give everybody an idea that this little 15th Amendment actually inspired a lot of court cases, and it was seeming like every few years after it was passed, like Grok could offer to cite more cases if I wanted. I was like, okay, that's enough. When you scroll and the whole page is all, because I start with Grok. I always have Grok read me the text of the amendment just to see if it's going off the matching stuff I'm reading from the Congress's website or from the archives.
Grok. All right. Where's Grok?
Yeah. Again, I
There.
sent several emails to you as replies. My apologies if they all look the same.
That's okay. Okay. It's loading.
I just realized with the comments in the chat that policy and Hillary Clinton are two things I shouldn't say in the same sentence. Well, if you know about her and Huma Abedin or Bill Clinton's predilections, it's like, yeah, maybe I should not go there with the Clintons.
Right now, anyway.
Let's see if this link comes up. So,
Okay. Whoops.
yeah, that's the
I
standard
need to
stuff.
get off of there. So
I just wanted to see how big it was, because Grok is saying this. That's the complete amendment, short but historically enormous in impact. So when Grok says that, I'm like, there must be a bunch of court decisions. I had no idea there were a lot. And I was like, can you cite the court decisions based on it? And then if you scroll down, you can have like a whole page of just, decisions.
that's what it's. Okay, wait. Maybe that's the wrong one. There we go. Okay.
There you go. So right off the bat, look at that. Just boom, boom. That's about 8 years right there between 1876, 1884. You have 1876. So then you have 1915. Then again, they bring it up in 1944, then 1960. Like every generation is trying this amendment out. 1966,
Yes.
1980, 2013. Like how many times do you have to revisit this amendment? Apparently a lot.
21 and 23.
Yeah.
Allen
So
versus
right there,
Michigan.
that one right there is on redistricting, by the way, guys, which is kind of interesting with Texas and California right now, because the way Gavin's redistricting it, it's going to penalize, conservative Caucasian voters. So they know what they're doing.
And with us, it's the opposite. According to the people who are complaining about it.
Yep.
That it's making a stronger red vote.
Yeah, they don't want it to be conservative in California and conservative in Texas, so they're splitting it up. It's one of those frustrating things, like Gavin putting a tax on you if you move out of California. It's like, who the hell are you to tax me for leaving? But Grok's making that point. These cases trace the arc from 19th century courts' narrow reading and Reese and Cruikshank through the civil rights era expansion in the 1960s and the more recent limitation, Shelby County Brunovich. Let me know if you'd like deeper quotes or analysis of any particular one. I didn't follow up with that. I just wanted to make a point that's like you should be able to read a short amendment like that, and it should be plain and simple. And look how many times people were challenging it or dealing with it in the court. That's at least what, 8 to a dozen cases.
Yeah.
So remember what I said about these these attorneys leaving that second portion kind of open-ended. I'm guessing
Yeah.
if we dive farther, we'd see that's where the attorneys are trying to get their money is by diving into that second part and trying to re-examine that case. And
Yeah.
Mary Freeland says Bonnie might be a bit distracted. I would say with kids and a doggy, she might be distracted. Yes, that's fine.
I'm sorry. It's not usually like this, but
Yeah, Conservative Cowboy just dropped a link about the ID, photo ID or no ID. But ladies and gentlemen, let's not get ahead of ourselves. They've been wanting in California, we have the real ID. Me and Dee could talk to you guys about how long they've been pushing for this, and it has a chip on it. Now, what if they don't like how you vote and you got to show that ID, or maybe later scan that ID and you got a chip, maybe it shuts you off and you can't vote because of a social credit score. So we have to be very smart when we push for IDs when voting and how we're going to do it. Just something to
yes,
think about.
I'm because they're talking about asking for IDs. Well, we've always had to show an ID to vote. But something else that I saw that they were going to start asking for IDs, and it can be a passport or as long as it has a picture ID. But
Yeah, something they did in the South too, and you may have heard of this, Bonnie, and this relates to this amendment, is to get around letting people vote. They would have what was called a poll tax, and basically they were making people who were poor and you know, more than often than not minority, they're making them have to pay just to be able to vote, which is supposed to be something everyone can do for free.
right,
So
goodness,
that was another way to fight the 15th Amendment if you were against anyone having suffrage. I'm sure you guys remember the poll taxes because you would always hear about them, and there'd be some guy in the front. Basically, he would only, he'd have like a bucket or a little money box or whatever, and he would tell these people they could come in to vote. But if not, then the armed men at the door wouldn't let them through.
Mhm.
So again, they should have, if they had put, Al Bundy's saying, thank goodness there's no more poll tax. Well, there's also, if he's going to reference the poll tax at the nudie bar from Married with Children, that's a different story. But I'm looking at like, what if they had put teeth into this amendment at that time? Would the Civil War have reopened, or would we have saved ourselves a lot of headache from the civil rights movement in the 60s? That's one of those woulda, coulda, shouldas. But these are attorneys and politicians we're dealing with. Aren't they supposed to know better to write, legislation that is complete and is correct?
Yeah. Well, they're going to twist it around to their favor, no matter what.
Well, isn't that kind of like, kind of a sad thought is even back then, we think of that as like, oh, it's the era of the Wild West and men were men and this and that. And it's like, yeah, and the politicians of that time still were screwing over the people even back then.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
the no tax for tips. There's a joke in there that I'm not going to follow up on, but yeah, no tax for tips. Oof. Let's just say if you're collecting those type of tips, you might be brisk about it. I'll leave it alone.
My daughter and I were talking on the way back, And she was asking me, how did we get to this point? And so I started to explain, and then she just picked right up, and I said, well, there you are. And she goes, we really got off track. And I said, yes, we did. Now we got to fix that. I said, do you have these 2 small children? You're the one. Pick up the ball. Broom. Or is there anything else y'all would like to say before I close it up? Did I lose all y'all?
No, I'm here. I'm trying to stay quiet to let Watt and Dee, have more say. I do realize I ramble, so.
No, I'm good, Bunny. Thank you for your faithfulness, hon. Love you.
Love you
Thanks,
too.
everybody. I'm gonna get going.
Have a good night,
Gotta
Dee.
go. Yep. You got good
You.
night. Bye.
That'll be.
Bye,
Take care,
Wa.
Dee.
Bye, Sean. Bye, chat. Love you.
What? Did you have anything you wanted to?
No, I appreciate you having me here. Appreciate the conversation. Hopefully, we all took away something, learned something, unlearned something, maybe.
Well, here's a thought for you, Watt, before you leave. We could use this 15th Amendment, as just use it for our voting rights, saying, hey, you're redistricting my area and you didn't ask me, that's going to infringe on my rights. See, we got to be just as cantankerous as the far left are. In other words,
Oh, yeah.
folks, tell everyone we need church bells to make a comeback.
Yes, definitely. And what's that called? Fighting fire with fire.
Correct, except we're not burning anything. We're going to be building. That's the difference.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Here's the link for backstage if anyone wants to come and chat. And
I'm going to drop down so I can grab that backstage link.
Sounds good.
I'll see y'all back there.
Definitely.
Thank you all for being here. Y'all, I love that y'all participate and make this great. Sean, D, thank you. And Watt, thank you all for your input and knowledge. Always appreciated. And hope to see y'all tomorrow night. God bless you and have a good night, everybody.
Take care,
Good
y'all.
night, everybody.